Let's be honest. There's probably something you should be doing right now that isn't watching this video. But don't click away, because I'm going to show you how to trick your brain into finally getting it done. Let's be honest for a second. Right now, there is probably something hanging over your head. Maybe it's a pile of dishes that has developed its own ecosystem, a spreadsheet that's been open in a tab for 3 days, or an email you've drafted and deleted 5 times. We've all been there, standing at the base of a mountain of work, feeling exhausted before we've even taken the first step. That feeling of heavy, sinking resistance isn't a character flaw. It's just your brain trying to protect you from what it perceives as a massive, uncomfortable energy drain. But what if I told you that the secret to moving that mountain isn't a sudden burst of Herculean willpower? It's actually a psychological glitch called the 2-minute rule. The concept is deceptively simple. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, you don't schedule it, you don't add it to a to-do list, and you certainly don't think about it later. You just knock it out right then and there. It sounds almost too basic to work, but the magic isn't in the task itself. It's in what happens to your brain when you stop debating and start doing. Procrastination thrives in the space between "I should do this" and actually moving your hands. The longer you spend in that gap, the bigger the procrastination monster grows. By the time you've thought about the laundry for the 10th time today, the mental energy you've spent worrying about it is actually greater than the physical energy required to just fold the shirts. The 2-minute rule slams the door on that cycle. It's a sprint that ends before your brain has time to register that it's working. Think about the small frictions in your life. Hanging up your coat instead of tossing it on the chair, clearing the icons off your desktop, wiping down the counter after you make coffee. These are micro tasks that take 120 seconds or less. When you tackle them immediately, you prevent the clutter creep that eventually leads to burnout. You're essentially telling your subconscious, "Hey, I'm the kind of person who handles business." But here is where the trick gets really clever for the big stuff. You can use this same rule to trick your way into deep work on massive projects. If you're staring at a 20-page report and feeling paralyzed, don't try to write the report. Instead, commit to the 2-minute version. Just open the document and write the title. That's it. The hardest part of any journey is the transition from rest to motion, overcoming what physicists call static friction. By making the first step so incredibly small that it's impossible to say no to, you break that friction. Once you're 2 minutes deep into a task, the resistance usually evaporates. You'll often find that once the document is open and the first sentence is down, you've already won the battle. The momentum takes over, and suddenly, you're 20 minutes in without even realizing it. You aren't fighting your nature. You're just lowering the barrier to entry so low that your inner procrastinator doesn't even bother to show up. Stop looking at the summit. Just look at your feet and give me 2 minutes. We like to think of ourselves as the masters of our own destiny. Logical beings who make choices based on our goals and values. But if we're being real, we are often just products of the rooms we sit in. If you find yourself constantly reaching for your phone or spiraling into a YouTube rabbit hole when you should be working, it might not be a lack of discipline. It might just be that your environment is designed for you to fail. Think about it. Willpower is a finite resource. It's like a battery that drains every time you have to say no to a temptation. If your phone is sitting right next to your keyboard, buzzing with notifications, you are forcing your brain to spend precious energy ignoring it. You're in a constant tug of war with a device specifically engineered by thousands of designers to be more interesting than your spreadsheet. In that fight, willpower eventually loses. But there's a way to win without the struggle. It's called environmental design, and it's about making the right choices easy and the wrong choices difficult. The most powerful thing you can do for your focus is to physically separate yourself from your biggest distractions. There's a fascinating study out of the University of Texas that looked at brain drain. Researchers found that even if your smartphone is turned off and sitting face down on the desk, it is actively sapping your cognitive capacity. Why? Because a part of your brain is working overtime just to not pick it up. Your attention is fragmented before you've even started. However, when those same participants put their phones in an entirely different room, their performance on focus-demanding tasks shot up significantly. Out of sight, out of mind isn't just an old cliche, it's a biological reality. If I'm working on a big project, I don't trust myself to just be disciplined. I leave my phone in the house and head to my office in the garage. That physical barrier creates a friction point. If I want to check Instagram, I have to stand up, walk across the yard, and go inside. Most of the time, the sheer laziness of having to do all that is enough to keep me in my chair, focused on the task at hand. You can apply this focus engineering to almost any space. If you find you work better at a library or a coffee shop, it's not just the caffeine. It's the fact that these environments lack the cues of your home life. In your living room, the couch cues you to relax, the TV cues you to watch, and the fridge cues you to snack. In a dedicated workspace, those cues are gone. Start looking at your workspace like a scientist. If you find yourself distracted, don't get mad at yourself. Look at the objects around you. Are there gaming consoles within arm's reach? Is your desk cluttered with reminders of other unfinished chores? Clear the decks. If you can't change the whole room, change the digital environment. Close the 20 unnecessary tabs. Turn off the desktop notifications. By curating your surroundings, you stop fighting against the tide and start letting the environment carry you toward your goals. You don't need more willpower. You just need a better room. When the distractions are removed, the work almost starts to do itself. Now, if you're finding that these environment shifts are helping you clear the mental fog, imagine what a full roadmap could do. I've put together a guide called 30 Days to a Better You. It's a practical, step-by-step challenge designed to turn these concepts into permanent habits. If you're ready to stop fighting yourself and start making real progress, check the link in the description. Now, let's get into how to make the work actually feel fun. Let's be honest. Some tasks are just never going to be inherently fun. No matter how many mindset shifts you practice, filing your taxes, deep cleaning the bathroom, or grinding through a dense technical manual will likely never give you the same dopamine hit as watching your favorite Netflix series or scrolling through a perfectly curated feed. Usually, we try to power through these chores with gritted teeth, promising ourselves that we can play after the work is done. But when the work is boring, after feels like a lifetime away. This is where a brilliant psychological strategy called temptation bundling comes into play. It's essentially the art of the productive bribe. Instead of using your favorite activities as a reward for finishing a task, you use them as a fuel to do the task. The concept was pioneered by Wharton professor Katie Milkman. She found herself in a common predicament. She knew she needed to exercise for her health, but at the end of a long day, the last thing she wanted to do was hit the gym. On the other hand, she was absolutely obsessed with the Hunger Games audiobooks. So, she made a pact with herself. She was only allowed to listen to those gripping cliffhangers while she was physically at the gym on a machine. Suddenly, her brain's math changed. The gym was no longer the place where I suffer through a workout. It became the place where I find out if Katniss survives. She actually found herself wanting to go to the gym because she was craving the guilty pleasure that was bundled with it. In her subsequent study, she found that people who practiced this technique went to the gym 51% more often. They weren't just more disciplined, they were having a better time. The beauty of temptation bundling is that it solves two problems at once. First, it reduces the pain of the chore by layering it with something you love. Second, it reduces the guilt often associated with wasted time. If you feel bad about spending 2 hours listening to a true crime podcast, bundling it with folding 3 loads of laundry turns that guilt into a win-win. You get the entertainment you want, and the house gets clean. To make this work in your own life, you need to create your own bundles. Think of the things you need to do. Those recurring, slightly irritating tasks like clearing your inbox, prep cooking for the week, or organizing files. Now, think of your temptations. The podcasts, the specific gourmet coffee, the playlist, or the audiobooks that you usually reserve for your downtime. The rule is strict. The treat only happens during the task. If you love a particular local smoothie, you only get to drink it while you're tackling your weekly budget. If there's a podcast that makes you laugh out loud, it becomes your official laundry companion. By doing this, you are effectively rewiring your brain's association with the chore. Over time, the dread is replaced by a trigger. When you pick up the laundry basket, your brain doesn't think about the folding. It thinks about the next episode of your show. You aren't forcing yourself to work anymore. You're just inviting yourself to enjoy a treat that happens to have a productive side effect. It's a gentle, breezy way to stop fighting your desires and start making them work for you. We often think of ourselves as a single, consistent person, but psychologically, your brain treats present you and future you as two completely different people. In fact, brain scans show that when you think about your future self, the brain fires in the same way it does when you think about a total stranger. This is why it's so easy to procrastinate. When you push a task off until tomorrow, you aren't really doing yourself a favor. You're just dumping a heavy load of work onto a stranger and hoping they'll be more energized than you are right now. To beat this, we have to bridge that gap using a bit of mental time travel. We need to stop treating future you like a stranger and start treating them like a dear friend, or at least someone you don't want to actively sabotage. The most effective way to do this is by visualizing future regret. Imagine it's the night before a big deadline. You're sitting at your desk, the clock is ticking past midnight, and the coffee is starting to taste like burnt rubber. Your heart is racing, your palms are sweaty, and that familiar, sickening knot of panic is tightening in your stomach. You're looking at the mountain of work you haven't started, and you're filled with a deep, stinging anger at the version of you who sat on the couch 5 days ago saying, "I have plenty of time." That feeling, that raw, visceral regret, is one of the most uncomfortable emotions we can experience. But it's also a powerful fuel. By taking a moment right now to vividly imagine that future misery, you pull the consequences of the future into the present. You make the future pain real enough to outweigh the present comfort of scrolling through your phone. However, if fear isn't your preferred motivator, you can flip the script and visualize future pride. Instead of the panic, picture the version of you that finished the task 3 days early. See yourself sitting on that same couch, but this time, the weight is gone. You feel light. You're actually enjoying your downtime because there's no nagging guilt whispering in the back of your mind. You've earned your rest. By sharpening your sense of what success looks like, you make the first step feel like a gift to your future self. But once you've used that mental vision to get off the couch, you need a plan to keep from getting overwhelmed again. This is where you break the mountain into micro tasks. The reason we freeze up when we look at a big project is that the brain views it as a threat. Write a book or organize the entire garage is too big to process, so the brain suggests a flight response. Go do something else. The trick is to stop looking at the mountain and start looking at the individual stones. Don't write a book. Write 3 bullet points for the introduction. Don't clean the garage. Organize one single cardboard box. These micro tasks are the antidote to intimidation. They are so small that they don't trigger the brain's alarm system. And here's the best part. Every time you check off a micro task, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine. This is what Harvard researchers call the progress principle. Those small wins create a positive feedback loop that builds genuine momentum. You aren't trying to finish the marathon in a single leap. You're just taking one step, then another, until the future you visualized earlier becomes the present you. Standing at the finish line, stress-free and proud. When we make a promise to ourselves, it's far too easy to negotiate. We are master lawyers when it comes to our own excuses. If we tell ourselves we'll start that new workout routine on Monday, and then Monday morning arrives cold and gray, we simply renegotiate. We tell ourselves we're tired or that we'll work twice as hard on Tuesday. Because the only person we're letting down is a version of ourselves that is already used to our own BS, the stakes feel incredibly low. But everything changes the moment another person enters the room. Humans are social creatures. We are biologically wired to care about our reputation and how others perceive our reliability. This is why public commitment is one of the most effective weapons in the fight against procrastination. Making a public commitment means taking your private goal and moving it into the light. When you announce to your team, "I'll have those findings ready for the meeting on Friday," or you tell a friend, "I'm going to run a 5K next month," you've effectively locked in your deadline. Procrastination is no longer a victimless crime. If you fail to follow through, you have to deal with the social friction of making an excuse or admitting you didn't do what you said you'd do. For most of us, that social discomfort is far more painful than the effort required to just do the work. In fact, research shows that simply telling someone your goal gives you a 65% better chance of completing it. But if you take it a step further and schedule a regular check-in, an accountability appointment, your success rate jumps to a staggering 95%. You are essentially stacking the deck so heavily in your favor that failure becomes the more difficult path. However, even with the best accountability, there will be moments when you're mid-task and your energy begins to flag. You've done the work, you've made progress, but the finish line still feels miles away. This is when you use my personal favorite mental trick, just 5 more. Just 5 more is a gentle nudge designed to sidestep the heavy feeling of the long haul. When you catch yourself wanting to quit, maybe you're halfway through a dense report or you're 10 minutes into a workout. You make a tiny, non-negotiable pact. Just 5 more. 5 more minutes of typing. 5 more pages of reading. 5 more reps. The beauty of 5 is that it's small enough to be doable, even when you're exhausted, but it's significant enough to actually move the needle. Often, a funny thing happens during those 5 minutes. Because you've lowered the pressure, you find your second wind. You realize that the wall you hit was actually just a temporary dip in motivation. Frequently, you'll finish the 5 and think, "Well, I'm already here. I might as well do another 5. But even if you don't, even if you stop exactly when the 5 minutes are up, you've still won. You've trained your discipline muscle to push just a little bit further than your comfort zone. You've proven to yourself that you are the one in control, not your fluctuating moods. Beating procrastination isn't about becoming a cold, unfeeling productivity robot. It's about being smart enough to outmaneuver your own human tendencies. By setting up external stakes and using small mental nudges, you stop waiting for the perfect moment of inspiration and start creating a life of consistent, breezy progress. You're not just getting work done, you're reclaiming your time and your peace of mind, one small win at a time.